Hello everybody and welcome to another Styling and Profiling. In this series of videos, we take a 3D printed model and paint it. In this particular video, we're going to begin right after the 3D print was cleaned, but before the supports are removed. Have a look at this. If you're new to the world of 3D printing, this is what a 3D printed figure looks like just when it comes out of the printer. The figure is inside there somewhere, and all the structures you see right now outside the figure are what holds the different parts of the figure up. These structures are called supports. This will be the first time I remove supports from a 3D model, so this will be exciting for me. At the time of this video, this is the method to print 3D models. If the figure was big enough and not so small and detailed, the supports will be easily removed. However, once dry, these supports can prove to be quite tricky. I received this figure with Ithaquas Bane with a warning: be careful when handling because of how small and how easy it is for things to break off. And let me just say, things broke off. The model he passed me comes in two parts: the main figure and the base that is supposed to stand on. Let's clear the supports. For this, I use a pair of clippers and precision scissors. I was not too sure where to begin, honestly, and decided to remove the outer supports first. This was pretty hard. This was harder than I thought, actually. I should have used smaller clippers, but I already had sat down and didn't want to spend time looking for the small clippers. The process was like playing Jenga. After you clip one, you wonder which one you clip next. After a few clips, I went to work on the hand part. Better to get that sorted out before moving to the rest. Besides, once I know where the hand is, it's easier to imagine where the figure is or where the parts of the figure are. But let me just say, this was torture. The figure is really, really small, and sometimes I could not tell the difference between the support and the figure. So I used a picture of the figure as a guide, but even then, this was difficult. As you clip, you slowly start seeing the figure inside. Now, this helps get the excitement going. I was so excited, I even used my fingers. I started working on the stuff, and when it slowly came out from the structures, man, it was like a puzzle. In fact, this cleaning thing felt like a new puzzle or game to do. There it is. Once I started to see what does not belong on the figure, it was easier to remove. You know, the figure was always there. You just needed to remove the parts so the figure can be seen.
The statue was always there. He just cleared away the small pieces.
Now, I had to be careful here. Yep, looks like it's coming along. And here's the thing, if you can look at the model right now, it's got no foot. And that led me to go back into all the bits I'd clipped off and start looking for this small bit of foot, which honestly was a torture to find. It took me at least about an hour to go through piece by piece by piece, and only to find that the foot was in the bottom part of the print. So thank God it wasn't on the floor somewhere, or else I'll be on all fours on the floor looking for it. The same problem also happened with the base part of this model. I had broken off the neck of what looks like the vulture, and it took me quite a while to find it. That was another like 30-40 minutes gone, going through bit by bit by bit by bit. In fact, I actually even had a small little container. I had to put all the bits in, and as a process of elimination, remove and try to find which figure it was. This figure is extremely brittle, let me just say. And the wing of the figure broke off so easily. I'm actually quite concerned about how I'm going to paint it. Do I spray it first? Do I use an airbrush? In fact, even using the brush, I'm so concerned about how much pressure to use. So this is going to be interesting all the way through. It feels like I'm working with a very, very fragile figure. So once I'm done with this, I'm definitely going to put it in a place where it's not handled much, which is quite a shame because it looks like a really, really nice model. Right, before I show you the finished figure, I would like to say thank you to Ithaquas Bane for giving me this print of this figure. This figure is from Villain Games, and it's from their Empires of Sand series. This one is called Scales of Anubis. Now, it's a very nice figure, very evocative and very tempting to paint. I spent about 9 to 10 hours on this figure. I used mostly Army Painter wall paints, thin layers gently put on, being very careful handling the figure. Comment below if you're curious about the colors I used. The great effect on this figure came from the Quick Shade Wash and its partner in crime, the Quick Shade Wash Mixing Medium. They're great together. I was able to thin down the wash in places where I wanted the detail to stand out, and went direct from the bottle in the areas where I was happy to have even darker and more shadows added. I painted the figure while guessing what was what and going with what was visually pleasing. This frame of mine with the Death entire discography in the background as company. To be fair, I should have painted this to a Nile, but I digress. After I was pretty much done with the figure, I looked at a picture of the figure on the website and found out there were skulls on Anubis. Lots of them. They were in the trimmings. I didn't check the figure proper when I started painting, so I was working what I could actually see. The figure was so small and my eyesight is not so great, and I assumed it was something else. So I went back in, and this time with the picture guide close at hand and a very detailed brush, I did the best I could to fix it or make it better. The trimmings were given a bronze base instead with a gold highlight, and on each of the skull bits I painted in the skulls. I did the same for the shoulder pads as well. For the amulets and loin guard, I added some gems, some light blue gems, and honestly, at this scale, I don't think any of this detail really pops. So I'm calling this done. So what are my thoughts on this particular project? The figure is very small, and there was so much detail to paint, which is alright, but not much of the detail came out looking great because of the size, to be honest. You could understand why some manufacturers tend to exaggerate parts when they make their figures, simply to give the painter more to work with. This figure perhaps was true scale and kept everything proportionate. And at this size, almost every part was a break hazard, from the hands to the staff. I even broke, like I said earlier, I broke the wings and the neck of the ibis. Maybe if you scale the figure up, there will be more to paint in. But at the size of the figure I got, which I think is about 28mm, this was a very difficult ask. Minis at smaller scales like 18mm and 15mm benefit from exaggerated sculpts. And this one was more like the Sinwall Elves. In fact, I think this was much thinner than the Sinwall Elves from Rackham Miniatures, the old Rackham Miniatures. The face of this figure is very, very beautiful, but my brush, my patience, and let's be honest here, my skills could only go so far. More 3D sculpt makers are making lots of nice figures, but perhaps keeping an eye out on how delicate the figure is when printed and how much the average painter would be able to paint on the figure or work the figure should be a conversation at some point. I'm sure there are many forums that the 3D sculptors go to. I'm sure there is discussion on this. but I'm not part of the 3D STL file making hobby yet. So these are just my questions and my thoughts. Regardless, this is a bloody beautiful figure. It's so good that if you were to base coat the figure grey and give it just a wash, it's good enough to be shelf worthy. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Like and subscribe if you like me painting 3D pieces of printed art. And don't forget to enjoy painting those figures.